And we're live. And we're live. Welcome. Welcome to you, the viewer, and to our fantastic panel who's back. It's the after Dram, and that means time to unwind. So put your feet up, grab a cocktail or two, and relax. So as a quick recap to our evening, Dave, Blair, Davin, and I have been treated to a tour of Don and Mike's distillery, Last Straw Distillery in Concord, Ontario, and Vaughan. And you have to tell me, is it Concord or is it Vaughan?
So it's both.
Okay. Which one's more specific?
My address says Concord, but we are in the city of Vaughan.
All right, done. Okay, so we're in Concord / Vaughan, Ontario. We're all sitting at their lounge, or they kind of what's a lounge after the tour, and it was a lot of hard work. There was some really hard questions, and Don talked, and everyone talked. And we're just enjoying ourselves right now. It's a little bit open as a forum, but we are going to do another round of introductions, and we're going to tell everyone what you have in your glass out there, because not all of us have a mojito. So, Don, if we could start with you. Actually, no, I always start with Davin. Start with you. Sorry. Davin, you're up.
Well, I'm afraid these are the very last drops of scorn that I have in my house.
Oh.
And I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice creamy whiskey. We talked about it earlier, but I'm sorry, I'm just not into a cocktail tonight. I want another dram. Last night or night before I did a big gin and tonic tasting, multiple gins, multiple tonics, and I think I'm going to drink whiskey tonight.
That's okay, and I can respect you all the more for it. Thank you, sir.
I am making this drink right here. No, you got to buy the book to figure out how to make it. It's called the Vaughan cocktail.
You big tease.
Yeah, and it's man, I could go on for days on how good this tastes right now.
Maybe you should, but that's okay. We'll put Don on. Don.
So I'm drinking the Blackstrap Mojito, but now I'm a little bit jealous that I'm not drinking the Vaughan, because I didn't realize we could go with cocktails that weren't prescribed.
But you're Canadian, you know, you're told.
So Blackstrap Mojito, maple syrup, not birch, but maple syrup.
And he's saying that because Yukon Dave has birch syrup in there. So, Mike, are you going to make us a mojito?
I can. I forgot ice, though. I've got that. And I'm the champion of maple syrup because my uncle has a sugar bush. But we're at a friend's house and they don't have maple syrup. So I've actually got sugar in the glass, but don't tell any. But I do have mint from the garden, so that'll
nice.
Hopefully
well, you can tell us if you don't want to make it. You could just tell us what we should have done.
No, I'll make it. I'm just going to run and grab some ice.
All right, we'll come back to you, buddy. And Dave?
All right, guys, I've got the Blackstrap rum, which I sampled straight and I enjoyed it. And I used Dolph's recipe, but I didn't have any maple syrup here. So I used,
there you go.
Some Yukon birch syrup. This stuff is so much darker and it's not as sweet, but it's more like molasses. It's really kind of cool. And of course, I didn't put any mint in it, or what was it? Muddled mint.
Yeah,
muddled mint. So I'm enjoying this one, and I used a little bit of Sprite in it. You put soda.
Oh, my cocktail skills are rubbing off on you, Dave. That's horrible.
Do you have any maraschino cherries to chuck in that?
Yes. No, it was the juice of the maraschino cherry.
And I used SodaStream in mine.
I got the ice right, though.
Yeah, yes. And yours and mine don't look at all the same. And I've got the mint from my yard. And I'm pretty happy with my drink. And my cocktails usually don't turn out that well. So, see? There. Nick, everyone knows my thing. But it's better than Dave's. It is.
I would say yes. Yes, it is.
This is delicious.
And Don and Mike, the funny thing about this is one of the recipes said maraschino cherry juice. And I because I didn't have it, Dave actually told me just use the juice from maraschino cherries, and I did. And my drink was like pitch red. And Blair was laughing at me, and he called it some horrible names. He made me feel really bad about myself. But that was my first or second night. You don't feel sorry. It's hilarious. And yeah, see, Dave seems like he's done okay this time. And it tastes really good. And my wife has hers as well. And Dave's is really dark. But I've got to say that the spruce, is it spruce tip? Dave?
Can you see that?
No, up. And over. There we go. Birch, not spruce. That's the beer he gave me. Sorry. So the birch syrup is fantastic. I like it a lot. Mike, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Perfect. Well, let's focus on you and let's see the drink.
I'm going to try not to spill anything on my computer.
Yeah.
All right. So blackstrap mojito, most important ingredient is, of course, the blackstrap. Which, Don, have you already given the spiel about what blackstrap is and is not?
Nope.
Nope.
All right.
Go for it.
So blackstrap is a new make rum. We can't call it a rum because in Canada, it has to spend at least a year in wood before you can call it rum. So this is, you know, in the Caribbean, they'd probably just call it a moonshine. This is made from blackstrap molasses instead of sweet or fancy molasses. So all but 2 other rums in the world that we're aware of, and I'm certainly not aware of every rum in the world, is made with fine or fancy molasses because it's super easy to work with. Blackstrap molasses is not. And the very first time we bought molasses, we didn't really know there was a difference. We just knew we could afford it, and we wanted to try making a rum. So, you know, I think it was how many drums were we doing, Don? 3?
Yeah, I think so. About 3.
Yeah, so 3 55-gallon fermenters full of molasses and water and yeast and ferment. Then we distilled it, and as it's coming off the still, we're tasting it. We're like, oh my God, this is super tasty. Oh, I really love the flavor. It doesn't taste like a rum, but it's its own thing. And we were super excited. And then we got, I think, like 8 or 10 liters of absolute alcohol out of about 70, 80 kilograms of molasses.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Which probably would have put us about $170 a bottle of rum. So Don got back to researching and experiment, and we tried a whole bunch of different stuff. And we don't really tell people what it is that we did because they sort of have to figure it out for themselves. But it is just straight blackstrap molasses, no additives, no other. It's just water, molasses, water, molasses, yeast, and love. But the flavor is super, super different than any rum that we've ever tasted. There's like 2 other rums from blackstrap that we know. One of them is 5 times distilled, so you can't really taste the blackstrappiness of it. The other one is really blackstrappy, but they make a rum and then they dose it with the molasses afterwards, so it's super, super sweet. This is just straight up out of the still, brought down to 46%, and into the bottle.
Now, I do believe, I could be wrong about this, and we could ask Greg and Jody, but I think north of 7 also uses blackstrap.
Yeah, that's the one they distill 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not blackstrap. It's a really nice rum. I quite enjoy it.
Okay.
But it just doesn't taste like the blackstrap molasses.
No, but they do. They're doing an age though, aren't they?
Yeah.
You're talking about the leatherback rum?
Leatherback.
Yeah, that's an aged rum, and it's got lots of color on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an aged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of more traditional in style that they distill it five times. Which every time you distill something, you pull some of the flavor out of the spirit. This is distilled once.
Good. And yours is better, and I want to see it. Let's go. Let's get it going.
All right.
I want to see if I did it right.
Put a little bit of. I've got white sugar here. Where are we at? There we go. I've got white sugar just in the bottom of the glass. I don't like my cocktails super sweet. I do recommend using maple syrup. So if you have maple syrup, fire anywhere from a 1/4 ounce to 1/2 ounce in there, depending on your sweet tooth. in the bottom, and take your mint leaves,
You have to answer.
nice and fresh out of the garden if you can. If not, grocery store. This is chocolate mint, which is kind of a new favorite variation of mine for this. But any kind of mint will do. Stuff that in the bottom of the glass, and lime juice. You can use the grocery store lime juice or limes from the grocery store. I like to juice a half a lime and just squeeze it right in there.
Done.
And of course, not being at home right now, I don't have a muddler. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. I just use the butt of a steak knife there and bruise your mint leaves up in with the sugar. Mix the sugar and the lime juice together. Bruise it all up. Not too much. You don't want to like flatten the leaves, but you should get a. If I tilt it any further forward, then I'll be spilling it on my computer. But
it looks good. And it looks like you're camping too. This seems like a camping thing. You just take whatever's there and just start mashing it together.
That's the last straw distillery thing. Take what you have and make something from it.
Good.
When life gives you blackstrap molasses, you make blackstrap rum.
And what do you put in there? Like 3 ounces?
I'm making a small one
Oh,
because I have a 2-month-old to put to bed who's been very, very, and I have a partner who's been very tolerant of me being down here drinking while she's entertaining the baby.
got it.
So I'm making a light one, but 1.5 to 2 ounces is kind of standard for a mojito. When we do them at festivals, obviously we do 1 ounce, but it's play around with it, get a little more balance, or see what sort of balance you like in your flavor. Give it a little stir, otherwise your sugar, molasses, and everything will all sit at the bottom. Dump your ice in, and then just a little bit of regular old soda water.
Yep. Not Sprite?
No. Sprite. Come on.
Well, I thought you were
Only
giving
in
me
the
the
Yukon.
American version. Oh, sorry.
And if you have the juice of a maraschino cherry, you can take it and throw it right in the garbage. And don't mess with the mojito.
Good job.
That's the simple mojito. And blackstrap, in my humble opinion, completely unbiased opinion, makes the best mojito in the world.
It's the best one I've ever made.
Well, I now that I saw the whole show, I can see the 7 steps that I screwed up.
Dave, you just be proud of whatever you have, buddy.
It's drinkable.
Well, I'm sure yours tastes good anyways. Mine tastes good as well. So how's yours taste there, Mike? You happy with it?
Pretty good. I think I actually needed a bit more sugar.
All right.
After saying,
I'll just dip my finger in it because I'm sweet enough and perfect.
You are. All right. Gentlemen, we're jumping in. Got some questions. And this is from an article from Toronto Booze Hound, which is a great name, by the way, from November 23, 2016. And they credit you with the willingness to throw away the book on what makes a good spirit and is already experimenting with flavors and ideas. I need some information from you guys about the good and the bad when it comes to experimentation. If you could tell us some. A good story and a bad story. Well, no, both are good stories, but one that turned out well and something not so well.
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
It's the after Dram. That's what happens. You get loaded questions. We push buttons we're not supposed to. Sorry.
I know the bad.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Start with the bad.
Oh, the hemp.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I forgot about that.
There you go. That sounds fantastic. What do we got?
all hear about it.
Okay. We have this crazy miller, K2 Milling. He is an eccentric 4th or 5th generation miller from France. In fact, his family, when they came to Canada, bought their mill from Gooderham and Warts.
Oh,
Cool.
wow.
And it was called Hey-Ho Mills in Woodbridge, in Vaughan, but great connection. And he calls me one time, and I get some weird things. I've got a whiskey laid down. You guys are going to just lose your mind on. I call it Miller's Maniac something or other. It has chickpea and 2 rices along with other grains. There's, I think, 7 grains in total. Anyhow, he called me one day. He says, I have a customer that wants to try making hemp spirit. And I go, well, that's simple. You take NGS and you just macerate hemp in it and you get a flavor out of it and you throw it in the bottle. He goes, no. He wants to make hemp spirit from hemp.
Why not?
Okay. I do some research. All the research says, no, it's not going to work. But hey, we're last straw. All right, bring it on. So he brings me this dried out milled hemp. And I mash it. And I go through the enzyme regime and I try to extract as much as possible out of it. And he brought me enough to do a couple mashes and a couple distillations. And when we're all said and done, I had 1 bottle of 60% hemp spirit.
$1,400 a bottle.
Close to that. I felt so bad for him. I cut it in half. So it was about $700, $600.
Okay.
And I said, here you go. Don't even smell it. It was the worst possible spirit I've ever done.
Oh.
And I was proud and embarrassed at the same time.
Good.
But I did it. And I may be the only guy in Canada stupid enough or smart enough or adventurous enough to try and make a pure hemp spirit.
Did you learn something from it?
I did.
There you
Don't
go.
ever do hemp again.
Huh?
Well, I think that's good and good.
I think so.
Bad in there, but we got them both at the same time. That's a great story. Thank you very much. Good suggestion.
And you know what? I must have repressed the memory until Mike had actually said the word hemp, because I completely blotted it out until he said that. And now I'm going to have nightmares. Thank you, Mike.
The PTSD is kicking in from it. That's good. That's all right. I'm going to go to another one.
It's funny. The brewery guy is laughing because he knows what I went through.
Oh, they do some weird stuff at Yukon Brewing too. And you know what? I think it affords you the luxury of experimenting. If you have, and they're different. So 2 brewers, they're a brewery and a distillery. If something goes wrong in the brewery, they distill it and they don't care. Right. Brilliant. So they can try it. They do whatever they want. And if it doesn't work, they distill it. That's generally what Bob says right there, Dave.
And it doesn't, we don't screw up very often.
Yeah. Not anymore.
Well, the good brewer doesn't know, but
No.
but at the point you get into something that's lackluster, then run with it.
Back in the experimental thing, I like this. So the Oscar edition, I wanted to know whose idea this was. First of all, could you tell me what this is, or tell everyone else what this is? Because on your YouTube channel, it's pretty prominent what you have with the Oscars. So tell people about that and whose idea it was, because I think it's pretty good.
So my brother-in-law Jose, he works he's the backbone of the business running. He takes care of everything, all the mail, phone calls that come in. He does all the accounting now. He takes care of the stuff that lets me go and do what I have to deal with. And we're a family business. Mike's not a DiMonte or Samoes, which is our family names, but Mike's still part of the family because Mike's been around from day one, and I went to school with him. So it's really a family business. So my brother-in-law,
you can't get out once you're in. That's
no, you're screwed now. So Jose is my wife's youngest brother, and he has been working with me for years, whether it be construction or with the distillery. And he has a wife, Christina, and when we decided to do a YouTube channel, I really think it was Anna and Christina that took it over and said, okay, we're going to do this, and they came up with the Oscar idea. So we did all these episodes, and it was painful. I'm not good on doing YouTube stuff. I don't like putting myself out. I really don't. I'm very reserved. But we did the Oscar thing, and they wrote the scripts and they came up with it, and I think it turned out pretty good in spite of me. And that's only because I've got a good infrastructure behind me. But we did the Oscar edition, and at the end of the day, I think I finally had to admit I enjoyed doing it. But we've suspended it because of COVID, of course.
Yeah.
Just too much focus on sanitizer, and we're even doing importation of bulk ethanol into Canada for other establishments that can't get it. So we have a line into Brazil that we're bringing in what they can't call it NGS, but they call it ENS, extra neutral spirit. And, yeah,
That'll fool them.
I know. It comes in from sugarcane, so it's not a grain. So,
Okay.
but we're so busy with that, we had to suspend the YouTube channel. But we do plan to come back. But the Oscars, as much as it was a lot of work, and it was every Saturday and Sunday, and script writing, and my wife was busy, and Christina was busy, and just getting script written and stuff. But it was fun. At the end of it, when you're finally done something, you look back and you go, oh, it wasn't so bad. Meanwhile, you were like bitching, complaining, scratching, crying, clawing the whole way through.
That's how I think Davin feels right now, because we had him for so many weeks. We had him for 7 weeks at first. We gave him 4 weeks off, but now he's in week 10 with us, and another 9 to go, or 8 to go after this. I feel for Davin. It's the same thing. I'm good with it, because Dave and I have no better place to be on Saturday night than here drinking and talking to people. I think this is the best thing in the world.
There's no better place to be on a Saturday night than with you and Dave, Dolph. Unless, of course, it was my 12th anniversary, in which case I would rather be with my wife.
I get it. Okay.
To be fair, guys, I'd rather be with my wife any night than be here. But
There you go. There's the right answer.
Speaking of that, excellent segue.
Has special significance for Blair.
Yeah,
When was the anniversary, Blair?
it's today. But look, I have a very comfortable couch. Everyone calm down. All right.
Excellent segue for me. I've got a 2-month-old that needs to be put down, and
Put to bed.
now put down, Mike.
yeah, I'm new to this. The language, I haven't quite refined the language, but I do need to take my leave. But I figured I wouldn't stick Don with mixing the cocktail, because Don just drinks it straight off the still.
As he should. It's his job. God's sake.
And you've seen my
Thank you
YouTube
very
channel
much
where
for
I make
coming on,
cocktails and look like a moron doing it. So,
Mike, it was fantastic having you here today. I'm glad we spent this time together, and hopefully we get to see you again one day.
I hope so as well. Thank
when
you.
Dave and I finally go back east and see everyone else. So, cheers,
Thanks, Mike.
and we'll see you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, man.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Mike.
Cheers, Mike.
Here, I'm going to put something else. Let's change gears a little bit, because this is kind of my dream thing. Can you see this, Don?
yep, I see it. I know
So
exactly
we
what
come
it
from
is.
your website, and I would love to do this, to tell you the truth. So tell me, in terms of me, because let's talk about me.
Yep.
And me. How many days would it take for me to do this? What would I do? And what would I have to do to prepare? And who will be teaching me how to distill? Because I want to distill.
So what we do is riffing off of what Stillwaters did to me, which was literally not knowing who I was and walking in and saying, hey, I want to do this. And I'm sure I must have been the 500th person to tell them that.
Oh, okay.
And they opened up and showed me everything. And I said, okay, if anybody comes to me, same thing. And we do it still now. I have about 5 guys right now trying to navigate how they're going to do this from all across Ontario and a couple out of Ontario. And so what we did is we decided, let's do a course, but let's not do this course because we want to make mass profits. Let's do this course because we want to give this to people. We want to hand people this course. So I tried to come up with a number, and the hardest thing to do is to come up with, what are you going to charge somebody for something? You can't lose money on anything you do, but you don't want to make egregious profits. And the worst thing about a class is once you announce you're going to do a class, if there's one person or 15 people, you're going to do the class.
Yeah.
So
you split up.
I struggle
with the price 1/20th or 1/5.
So yeah, exactly. So we said, okay, give us $800.
Okay.
For $800, we give you every piece of documentation you need to open a distillery. Even though you can do it all online, we give it to you and we walk you through it. So, for example, day one, everybody gets in day one. There's coffee, donuts, muffins, whatever you get in the morning. And then it's like, okay, everybody, we're going to go do a mash.
Okay.
So we actually grab the grain, open the bags, cut the bags, drop them in the mash tun, and everybody drops their own bag in the mash tun.
Okay.
Okay, now we're mashing. Now everybody grab a seat. We're going to talk. And then Mike usually comes in when, like, if Mike's around, Mike can come in. If not, I'll do it. But it's, here's what you're gonna go through to get a distillery going. Very first thing you need a location. But before you get a location, you better have a business plan. Oh, by the way, your business plan, you're going to be throwing it out in 6 months. Like, we try and talk them into and out of what they're doing. Because if you're not ready to do this, it's not an easy row to hoe. Yeah. So we'll take them through all the aspects of every governmental agency, and oh, look at that, the mash is ready to have the next change. So day one is learning the administrative part about getting your license, learning CRA, Ontario government, municipal governments, everything. Here's what you need to do. And by the way, we're going to be pitching yeast now. So that's what we take them through. So they kind of get both ends of it. And then the second day, we generally have a stripping run ready to go into our stripping still, and we have a finish run into our finish still. And we start going through the aspects of, we talk about the mashing, fermentation, and we talk about the economics, the bottles, the labels, the caps. Try and give them everything you need to think about. Like, I remember somebody said, oh, people talk about retiring, going into winery and having a retirement plan to open a winery. Yeah. There are a lot of people trying to go into distilling as a retirement plan. And that's a horrible idea. Okay. It is a massive amount of work.
It's a great idea. My wife's right beside me, and I thought it was it's a great idea.
It's a 12 to 18-hour day, 7 days a week. Like, we've only now, because of COVID, shut down Saturdays. And during COVID, when it started, we were open Sundays because people desperately needed to get their access to sanitizer.
Yeah.
And we're only now starting to get some time off. So the one thing I take people through is, the distilling part. Everybody's interest is always distilling. And it was mine too when I started. The problem is distilling is not the issue. Like I've said before, mashing and fermenting makes more sense. Learn that, because you're making the alcohol then. You're only extracting it in distilling. It's an industrial process.
I read an article on the plane one day that says if you know how to brew beer or make wine, that's the start of distilling.
Exactly. Distilling, you can either buy computerized equipment that'll do it for you and that you can program to your taste, or you can distill 1 liter at a time. Canadian Tire's got a lot of mason jars. Don't worry about it. Just buy a shitload of them and do 1 liter at a time. And once you can break down 1 liter at a time, you will learn your heads cuts, your hearts cuts, your tails cuts. That's not the hard part.
Beside that, let's say I wanted to start distilling, because I do want to start distilling, but
okay.
Let's say I have a robo brew and a still with my robo brew. How would I decide what becomes, hypothetically, the heads and tails? Because people talk about you have a different scent, it tastes differently. You just got really bright and very.
Yeah, my wife just put the light on, and now my face just went white. So can you shut that off, honey? Because put the kitchen on. Maybe it'll. Sorry, we're not used to this.
No, talking at night. Well, although Davin, this is early for Davin.
Okay, that's not fair.
But this is good. So how do you decide the difference, and how do you teach them the difference between the heads and tails? Is it timing? Is it smell?
Here's the difference. I have to go by taste. And I mentioned earlier that I smoked a lot in my earlier life.
Yeah.
And I literally have to, my finger in the run, I need to taste it. My son, Brandon, who has barely smoked in his life, will walk into the back of the distillery, and Blair knows this. So you walk from the office through the kitchen area into the distillery. He'll walk through the door and go, "Oh my God, you're in pails," because he can smell it from there, which is halfway down the way. So it's all about you. What works for you? Do you need to segregate everything to 1 liter runs? And if you really want to get technical, do you need to go to half liter? Do you need to go less? It's up to you. I work off smell and taste, more taste than smell. Brandon can work off smell. But once you get that down, you're pretty much now just figuring out liters.
Okay.
I can take so many liters off. That's going to be my heads. Now, here's where the iStills and the Genios, the computerized systems.
Yep.
For me, I have to say the Genio, for example. I got brighter again. I know we're working on lighting as we speak.
It's working. It's good.
Is that good, or are you
doing very well? Thank you very much.
Perfect? Thank you. So what we've now done is we take our Genio and we take our heads cut or our tails cut. So if you've ever seen, and I'm sure all of you have seen this, distillation works in curves. So your heads start distilling at a lower temperature. But before your heads finish, your hearts start. And there's a crossover period where there's ethanol. And when your hearts finish, your tails already started before that, and you're getting bitter notes and notes that you don't want in your spirit. If you take those notes and you say, man, I've got all this ethanol that I can't use. Well, what we do now is we cut those out. We cut them out way early, way late, and we make sure we're down to just hearts cut. That's our barrel run. That's our hearts cut. We take the balance, we throw it in the Genio, and the computer keeps cycling all the time, working on temperatures and working on science and pulling the hearts out. So we can either say, let's make a vodka, or let's fortify a barrel. We're a little short on LAA. We'll throw some of this in. And I won't say who I did this to, but I took all my heads and tails of a rye run, put it in the Genio, distilled it, put it into a jar, took it to another distillery and said, hey, what do you think of this? And they went, that's an amazing rye.
Okay.
And that's what I like to do, is go to other distilleries, other guys that I know in the industry, and say, what do you think? Because I don't.
Now, are they being nice to you? Because
Yeah.
if they're a good
Yeah.
friend, they might be nice anyways. Like, oh, yeah, it's fantastic, Don.
I'm honest with everybody, and everybody is honest with me. And this is what I've always told everyone. If I hand you something and it tastes like, do you know who Joanne McInnes is?
No, sorry.
Davin and Blair probably know Joanne.
Davin, who's Joanna?
I didn't catch the name.
Joanne McInnes?
Oh, I know her, yeah.
Yeah. Joanne's from the East Coast. She writes about whiskeys and stuff. And I remember her telling me this one day. Somebody out there gave her a sample of a spirit, a white spirit. She said tasted like fish.
Okay.
And I said to Joanna, if ever I give you something that tastes like fish, please tell me. Because the problem when you distill your own stuff is you fall in love that you made it. It's yours. It's your baby. You can't trust yourself. You need other people to tell you. And you have to get those people in the industry that will tell you.
Yeah.
And that's the group of people I have. And that's what I've cultivated over time. And I've guaranteed them, if you give me something and ask my opinion, I will give you an honest opinion. I don't care about your feelings, because your feelings aren't money. The worst thing to do as a distillery is put an inferior product out to the public thinking it's awesome. You can't do that. That will destroy you. And there's a lot of micro distilleries putting stuff out that they've fallen in love with because they made it. And they shouldn't be putting it out.
Like the fish one.
Well,
Where
the fish
do
was
you figure this fish one's from? Because you've talked about some fishy East Coast stuff before.
Well, now I don't know where that came from, because that was when telling me a story. But I'll bet you if I go to Davin and say, Davin, how much micro distillery stuff have you had that shouldn't have been on the market? Good question.
Percentages falling. But yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff. People put it out before it's ready, and there's a thing called cellar palate. You get, if you taste something often enough, you start to think that's the way it's supposed to taste, and you start to think that's really good. That's why it's really important to taste other people's products, because you really can get quite used to it. I just want to go back to Joanne McInnes, because when we were writing the book, Blair and I stayed at her house for 4 or 5 days.
Oh, really?
So we do know who she is.
Yes.
Yeah, and so thank you, Joanne, if you're watching.
Davin, do you know her handle on anything else on Twitter and stuff? Because she probably doesn't go by that.
Whiskey Lassie.
Yeah, Nick.
Whiskey Lassie. I know her very well, and she does love Davin. She talks about Davin all the time. Okay, sorry. Back to the story. But Whiskey Lassie's fantastic.
No, tell me more about how she loves me. I'm kidding.
I have seen her online 3 times, and all 3 times she's mentioned you, Davin. So I think there's some
kind of her.
No, she's lovely. But anyways, Don or no, Davin, you're at her house for 2 days and 5.
I don't remember how long we were there.
You drank too much.
I don't remember how long. I mentioned we in the front of the book we have a little thank you to her because she did tolerate us for a while.
Oh, nice.
But the thing is, you need people in the industry that are going to be honest with you.
Yes.
And if there's no honesty, I don't want it. Like I know I hate mentioning names because I don't do this. I don't mention names, and I don't try and crush people or talk bad about people. I don't talk bad about anybody in the industry, but I know that there has been micro distilleries put stuff out to other writers and other bloggers, and I've literally been called by them and said, they sent me this stuff, it's horrible, what do I do? And I said, look, if my stuff's horrible and I give it to you and I tell you to make a review, I want you to bitch slap me, because the last thing I need to do is be putting stuff out that's garbage.
Although do it privately, please.
No.
You want it online?
Okay. Do it online, because then I'll learn my lesson. And that's important.
I know there's about 200 people in the whole world who just love reading negative reviews. But I can tell you, as a guy who's made his living writing reviews and things like that, when you write a negative review, people don't read it. You don't get the traffic. You don't get the hits. The magazines don't buy it. People have often say that I love everything. Well, here's the truth. I only write about things that I enjoy, because I know if I write about stuff that I don't enjoy, that I'm going to get very, very little pickup. People won't be interested in it. I won't be able to sell it. So I don't do that. But I do tell people privately. But I was once put in the embarrassing position of being asked my opinion of a whiskey while the distiller was on the screen with me and the agent. Must be Yukon.
Was that me, Davin?
And it was the only whiskey they've ever made that I didn't really love. And I'm afraid I was honest.
Yep.
But you know what?
And I loved it. That's
fantastic. We want that. Sorry, Blair, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I could well have been wrong, because Blair then turned the corner and said, well, I love the maple notes and this really works well together. So we had diverse opinions, but you have to be honest on, because
if you're not honest, then
people won't read you anymore.
No, exactly. You have to be honest, and like you say, if you want to send a message to them saying, "Look, I really didn't like this. I don't want to write about it. It's not my thing." Then that's great.
Yeah.
My point is, if I'm pushing you to write about it, write honestly. Then.
Yeah. If you're pushing me to write about it,
just write honestly, because I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself. I don't trust my people, my friends, my family, because everybody thinks you're awesome no matter what you make, because, oh, that's my brother-in-law, that's my brother, cousin, friend. I went to school with him. And when you do something interesting like distilling, they all think you're awesome. The last thing you need to think is you're awesome when you're not. You need to get awesome. You need to figure that out.
Well, Scorn is awesome.
Thank you, Davin. And that
I'm looking in your eyes when I say that. That's I really like that.
I greatly appreciate that, and I believe it, and that vindicates me. And my son already told me Scorn was good, but Rye was bad. So,
and I would put a bottle of that on my bar.
Perfect.
And somehow I'm going to get one on my bar.
We'll get you one.
And I disagree with Brandon about the rye being bad because I thought it was fantastic. So there you go.
I know you did, and I held that up to him, and he said he's wrong.
Well, that makes two of us who are wrong. That makes two of us who are wrong. Yeah.
And you know what? We all have loves and hates, and same thing with
And personal taste, yeah.
We do, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you know what? That same interview that Davin did, the owner said, if someone says they love absolutely everything you've done, you have to question that a little bit, because
Absolutely.
you are making, as a distiller, you're not making the same thing right across the board. You're not trying to placate one palate. You're trying to placate or trying to get many different people. And to do that, the flavors you have to introduce to people have to be varied. And if one person loves everything, I think that is questionable. I think
it is.
You're allowed to not love it, and I put you in that position. I'm sorry, but I didn't love the same one you did. However, my wife did love that one, and I actually bought that one for my wife because she loved it. But we have different tastes. That's the way it is, and we're good with it.
Right, but the other thing too is, don't forget, the other aspect of this too is micro distilleries don't have the luxury of, tens of thousands of barrels laid down over 12, 14, 15, 18, 22 years. We have to work with what we have.
Yeah.
And we have to try and pick those ones off and say, yes, no, what do we do? And that's where the hard part comes in. Like, we're trying to pull 3-year-old whiskeys and trying to get them compared to, because it doesn't matter what you put out. Somebody's going to compare you to Lot 40. Somebody's going to compare you to Crown Royal Harvest. You're going to get compared to those. And whether you're 3, 5, 7, 8 years, you also don't have the background those companies have.
Yeah.
And the last thing you need is somebody placating you saying, oh, yeah, this is awesome. Good little boy. That's wonderful. No. If it's crap, tell me it's crap, and I'll move my off of this. And that's what we're dealing with. And I'm not whining or crying about being a micro. I actually find that exhilarating about it, that if I can nail one and get someone to say, hey, that's a great whiskey, that's a good whiskey, even if it's not, like one of the big guys, but hey, it's a good whiskey, then I'm happy. Then my job's done. And I can take that, learn from it, move on, and get the next. Because who knows what last one's going to be in 20, 40, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm just the foundation.
Yeah, we can't be like the big guys.
No, we can't.
We want to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And you take your win in any way you can get it. And you take the learning any way you can get it along.
Absolutely.
All right. Blair, I got to get you in here. You were telling me about their non-alcoholic beverages. So what have you tried?
No, not. I was talking about all their beverages, actually, and not all their spirits, I should say, because like this is where I'm going to come across as this guy that's Mr. Insincere. I love it all, and I'm waving the last straw flag. But when you're a spirits fan, and not just whiskey, but you like gin, you like the little odd things that are out there.
Right.
This is the perfect distillery where you get to experience all these little quirks and niches. And I don't know, Don, you haven't really bottled a dud yet. That's the thing. And I've been putting a lot of thought behind this of why everything tastes so damn good. And I think about you think about James Brown of Parliament, Funkadelic, their music, and the whole foundation is based off of the one, right? You hit the one in the rhythm. It's like the emphasis on the first beat of the measure, and there's something about Last Straw where they hit this beat in their spirits, no matter what they're making. If they're making rum, vodka, gin, or whiskey, or these little oddities like the beer schnapps, for instance. They're hitting this note, and I'm starting to think that it starts with a B, and his name is Brandon.
Yeah.
And it's this foundation in all the spirits. It's a spirit within the spirit that just brings everything to life. And we talked about this, you and I, at the distillery, and there's a connection on why your spirits hit at every level for spirits fans. Like, I'm not talking about people. If people don't like rum, they're not going to like Blackstrap. But if you're a spirits fan, you're going to love it.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more about about Brandon and what he brings to the distillery.
So Brandon, early on, when we were driving for an hour and a half to get to the distillery when it was in Erin in Hillsburg, you know, even if he woke up late, he would drive his own car out and spend his own gas to come out and just make sure he was there for the day, because he really took to what we were doing. And, you know, one day I looked at him, I said, okay, we're getting really good reviews and people are loving our stuff and we're not getting a lot of negative stuff. And I go, what do you think it is? And he paused for like not even 5 to 10 seconds. And he looked and he said, it's a love. And I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And what he says, like, he cares about what we're doing. And he is so scared about putting garbage out that he won't let, him and I fight over stuff all the time. And that rye that you liked, we fought over that. He didn't want to release it. Our first single malts, we're still laying down. We're almost 5 years now, 5 years into them, and we won't let them out because he is adamant. Like, he's like, Dad, I'm going to hit you.
You're making me so mad.
Yeah, like he's very, very, very worried about quality, and he really cares about the product, and he wants to make sure that it's a good product. And the rye was just on the fence. And you saw how you liked the rye, and Davin, like what you guys thought of the rye. I don't think it was a bad rye. I actually really enjoy it. I have one of the few bottles left, but yeah, he was not about that rye. Well, and that's the difference.
We always talk about, we talk about you get one chance to impress the public.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put something out that's subpar, it's going to be a tough sell when you put out your second edition.
Mm-hmm.
And
wherever
I can see that. Yeah. We want to put out. You guys want to put out a winner.
Yeah. And you have to, especially when you're talking whiskeys, you have to put a winner out.
We're going to talk about a little bit of nepotism here. So you've got your nephew Joey working for you right now. You have your son as the master distiller, and you talked about what was his name previously? You worked with construction as well. How many family members do you have working for you? And do you pay them appropriately or not? I'm just wondering.
So yes, they get paid. Jose works in the office administration and whatnot. He gets paid properly. He's on a salary. Brandon's on a salary as well, and Joey gets paid his hourly rate. And he's a summer student. He's still in school, but we've needed help bottling for sanitizer. So he's been taking that off our plate now, which has been great. And you know, the one thing I like about family is they feel like they owe you something,
and they try harder.
They try harder.
They do. So I'd use my whole family if I could. I've got 3 children. If I had a distillery, they'd all be working. In some way.
I have 5 grandchildren, and I'm waiting for them to get old enough. So
yeah, good. And distilleries and all the ones we talked about, the people that they hire, they talk about family, and it's a great relationship. And everyone that we've interviewed over these past 2.5 months, closing on 3, they've always been really happy with who they've had in the distillery because they trust them. So you already have that natural trust, and it works out. So good for you. So, but I'm going to go to this one. If you could see this, is also from your website. You're focusing on the wholesome little guy kind of platform. How long do you think you could do this before you're too big to be able to do this anymore?
Even if I got really big, I'd like to focus on that as well.
Okay.
I would. I like, you know, everybody who does anything in life that they like doing, love doing, you know, there's those moments when you're trying to sleep and you're staring at the ceiling and you know, you wonder what's the future going to bring. I'd love to be as big as Aaron Walker. I would.
I'd still be the little guy.
I'd take that in a heartbeat. But I would still hope to be producing Scorn and the rye that we do, and just maybe have a lot more barrels that laid down, a lot more time going on, and a lot bigger portfolio. But I don't look at being a micro as, oh, I'm just going to be a micro forever. If I can ever find a way to be big, I would absolutely be big. But I would hope to bring the same thing there. And I don't know that a bunch of the big distilleries don't have the same attitude. Like, just because they're big doesn't mean they're not caring about what they're putting out. They're not.
Oh, they care. They care a lot.
Absolutely.
And they put a lot of time and effort into
because it's even almost worse that you're big. If you put garbage out when you're big, how quick before you lose that market share? You know, like I look at my favorite distilleries in the world, and my number one favorite distillery, only because they were such an underdog in their day and got resurrected, was Bruichladdich. Jim McEwen and Bruichladdich, and I watch every documentary. I lament the fact that I couldn't afford to go meet Jim when he was operating Bruichladdich. If I could live his life as a distiller, like I said, I think I referenced it earlier, you know, when you're 10 years old walking by going, can I sweep the floor?
Yeah.
And by the time you're in your mid 20s, I think he was running Beaumoret. And, I love Beaumoret products. I love Scottish whiskeys. I love Islay. Islay is that's my mecca. I want to go to Islay. I want to tour every distillery. I want to talk to every person that's ever smelled the air there. That's it for me. Like, that's where I want to be. So
you're a Scotch lover too. That's good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But there's no reason why Canada can't have that same thing. And like Don Livermore is that in Canada to me. Like I met Don Livermore
last week, and we have a lot of people, and you're part of that story, man. And in Ontario, where we're going to have maybe a whiskey trail in Ontario, and we
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But I'll give you a quick story about Don Livermore. So we were at the second last Whiskey Live, and he was doing master classes. And in that master class, he was teaching you how to make Weiser's, the blue label. Sorry, just the name. Which one?
Legacy.
Yep. And he was teaching you how to blend that. And so Mike Hook, that's what Legacy. Yep. And Mike Hook walked up to him and said, "Hey, nice to meet you, Don." He was in between classes. He goes, "We're Last Star Distillery. We're just new. We were literally just new. I don't even know that we were distilling at that point. We may have just started." And he said, "Well, how many are you?" 3. "Come on in." On me. Put us in the front of the row, and we did a master class with Don Livermore. And he gave us his card and said, "Any questions? Go ahead."
And he's got a great card too. He's got that little wooden card that looks like a staves thing. We get along quite well with Don. He's we've seen the master class. He's been on with Davin and I. He's going to be on with us on the 19th.
Nice.
Our Alberta Scotch Society, we had a tasting with him and 3 expressions that haven't come out yet. We were his guinea pigs for them.
Nice.
And Don's fantastic. And but I'm serious with this. You're part of a movement, and the Southern Ontario, I love that belt. I love the BC belt and the Southern Ontario belt to have a whiskey tour region in there. And I think it would be fun. I
think so, because at the end of the day, more whiskey,
good for everybody.
It's better for everybody.
And we're going to go from actually, Davin, did you ever meet Jim?
Oh yeah, I've known Jim McEwen quite well. We were there for the reopening of Bruichladdich, because I know Mark Renier, and Mark has Waterford now, but it was Mark Renier's project to open Bruichladdich, and he raised the money and he brought in Jim. So I met Jim a few times, and every year we used to go there every year for their they had a big event just for their staff, and serve lobster, and it was really a lot of fun. And I remember one year I asked Jim about a Beaumont that I didn't enjoy, and he said, if you say anything more, I'm going to take you outside and punch your lights out. And I said, that's what I think of that Beaumont. I mean, that's that place, and he get runs this concern, but he was just a wonderful man for telling a story.
Oh yeah.
But at that opening of Bruichladdich the first year, when we were there, we went over to where the bottling line was, and they were bottling the Lafroig, because Lafroig had run into some mechanical problem, and they needed the whiskey right away for the Isla Festival of music and malt. And anyways, there was this big carboy sitting there full of whiskey, and he asked if he could have my water bottle, and he took it and poured it out like this, and he dipped it, pushed his hand and pushed it right down into the bottle. He said, "This is a 32-year-old such and such." You know, his bottle was full, took it out, put the cap on, and we took that away with us. So yeah, he's a character and a half and a storyteller and a half. A really great guy. Mark was the brains behind that distillery.
Blair, you're getting to know Davin fairly well. Is he bringing you on any of these trips to have your 32-year-old water bottle doubts, Blair?
No.
I think there's a problem, Blair, with it, because you're the heir apparent, and I think you really should be piggybacking on just about everything Davin does right now, because all these names are really impressive, and they've been here. And the mystique of whiskey and Scotch, and Davin, you've been a part of it. And Blair, I admire you where you are right now, because you're just taking off in everything. And I don't know. I think this is great. I wish I could be there with you in Ontario to see all these, because Blair, you take off for a couple hours and you go meet Don and you see what they have and you pick up 3 bottles, you come back home. You're in positions where you can meet so many people there. And if I was in BC, that'd be great. In Alberta, I've met the 4 distilleries around me, but I would love to be in your position where I could talk to anyone I want, Davin. And they would take
I think that 10 years from now, Blair is going to be the spirits writer in Canada. I think Blair is going to have the spirits community in the palm of his hand 10 years from now. I'm not kidding you, whiskey included. But
Good.
we've done a lot of really interesting things together, though. Like, you know, the big Canadian club thing was fabulous. Going down there and, you know, with a haunted house in the Zug Island and all that, and going freezing our NUTS off in Newfoundland on Canada Day. And we've done a lot of awesome stuff together. We found it unlike any you've ever seen. It's in the book, too. So we've done a lot of good stuff together. But I've been around for quite a while, and I got to a lot of very exciting travel when I was the Canadian editor for Whisky Magazine. I mean, I went to Amrit. I studied, went to India and toured Amrit and did a lot. I went to Taiwan and did Cavalan and toured a lot. And so, yeah, I've done a lot. I went to South America, toured some distilleries there and Caribbean. But that was a different era. It's not the same with Whisky Magazine right now.
No, it's exactly. It's a different era. I wasn't doing this when Davin was experiencing this stuff. So
that's a good excuse, but I really do think you should still be going to these places. And I know COVID retarded everything that we want to do, but you know,
my first goal is to hit every single Canadian distillery before I start thinking about moving on to different countries. So,
all how many?
Well, if I can tell you a quick story. So,
yes.
A few years ago, my daughter was living in Banff, and she was pregnant with her first child.
Ooh.
And so it was one of those things where we were waiting to hear, okay, when you go in labor, when you go in labor. So, you know, you're on call, right?
Yeah.
And finally the call came in. I'm going into labor. She's in Canmore. That's where the hospital is.
Yep.
So we got the call. I met my wife at the airport. She took the UP up, the Up Express, and I got a ride over there, got the tickets. We're waiting there, had a couple drinks, had a dinner, and then flew to Calgary. Got to Calgary, just made it to the rental car before they closed, drove to Canmore, made it there 5 minutes before Blake, my granddaughter, was born.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Wow.
The next day, Wildlife Distillery had their launch.
Okay.
I made it to Wildlife Distillery's launch and went to Park 3 times while I was there.
Park. I like Park.
And we toured Park and did everything. So, but I made it to a distillery opening because my granddaughter was born.
awesome.
My golly, you got it. I hope you bought a bottle for her.
We did buy a bottle. It's not for her. We drank it.
We drank it, Scott. We could probably still get you one from the
But the
date.
story still remains.
Wildlife has moved now.
It did?
Yeah, they're right in Canmore now.
Oh, sweet.
They've got space in a big restaurant. What's the name of the big restaurant? And they're at the back of the restaurant, and so it's really quite an operation now. It's
beautiful.
a huge upgrade from what they had before, which was pretty awesome to start with.
you know, it was a couple guys that just were gung ho. It was great to see. And that's a question I wanted to ask you, Davin. You were around all these distilleries in the world. Did you find anything that linked us all together? Is there some something that we're all equal about or the same about? Do you find some synergy in all of us, whether we're in India, Scotland, Canada, USA? Is there something there that's either what I call the craziness, that's the love, the heart? Yeah.
I think that it's. I don't know if I've ever been in a distillery where the people didn't express genuine passion about what they're doing. There's something crazy about distilling because, you know, for example, people work in distilling for 45 years. They could retire. They're working for free, you know, once they get to their pension, you know. But it seems to be something that gets in your blood, and people just get more and more passionate about it. And you know, I remember at Amaret, I went over to Rick Jagdale's, I think that's his name, house for dinner. He's the you know, the guy who was the big owner. He inherited it from his father. He's passed away now, and we're sitting there and he's talking about it, and you can just see like his eyes are just like, you know, so alive. We were sitting outside out on a little patio outside his house. His eyes are alive, and he said, and then he starts talking. He says, "Those fermenters, my father made those fermenters, and he was making brandy in those fermenters." He says, "Those fermenters, we don't use them anymore, but I will never get rid of those fermenters. My dad made those." And I went there, and he had cement fermenters.
Wow.
I know, honestly. So yeah, John, I think that the people who succeed in this business and last forever are passionate about the spirit. And so when I hear that you talk about giving away hand sanitizer, and a lot of people in Canada are doing things like that, and I hear this, and people who are more interested in having a good product than squeezing every last dollar out of it, you know, I see the same thing in you guys that I've seen in the guys in the Caribbean who are doing this, or you know, Guyana. Go to Guyana. Those guys are insane. They're so proud of what they're doing, and they make the best rum anywhere. Yeah, even better than yours. And they you know, go to some of these, like Crown Royal. It blows my freaking mind how passionate these people are about what they're doing there. I mean, they have they must have 100 whiskeys that they'll never release because they don't think they're good enough, you know. And so what they you know, they distill them away or blend them away and something else, things like this. They have stuff that honestly, I've never seen an innovations team like they have there. And it's the same with the Scots. These guys are just like, honestly, they'll stop what they're doing if they think you're interested in what they're doing. and they'll take the time to explain what it's all about. And I'm not talking about the brand ambassador and the guys who's paid to talk about the whiskey. I'm talking about anybody. Like, you know, go to Lagavulin, you know, you see these guys out there working on whatever, whether they're, you know, talking about the water that's coming in there, things like this, and they get really excited if you say, "Hey, geez, that water that's coming into Lagavulin, that's brown. That must be peat dissolved in that. Is that where oh no. Okay, we can load the grain later. Now I'm going to explain to these guys why this water is brown and why we use it for cooling, but we never let it touch our whiskey." And so yeah, it's passion, Don.
Yeah. It's passion, and there's an obsession as well.
Pardon me?
I think there's an obsession with it as well. There's passion, but you're kind of obsessed with it. And the little 10-year-old monkey shoulder kid doing the grain or something like that. There is a love. There's a passion, like you said, but I think it goes beyond passion a little bit to obsession. You know so much about something, and you're so proud about it that you become a little bit obsessed. I think there's an extra little level. What I think. Anyway, gentlemen, it's been an hour. I have
wow.
There's 10 questions I didn't ask you guys tonight, and I usually get by with 2, 3, or 4 that I don't ask, and I kind of go back and forth. There's 10 questions, all these pages, questions everywhere.
Well, clearly, Last Straw needs to come back on.
Well, I've got a page full of stuff I need to ask.
There's a we should do that. But I'm going to do last comments from you all, and then we're going to stick around for the after Dram, of course. But that's offline, and we can say even more crazy stuff that we don't say already. But Davin, we're going to go you and Blair, and then Yukon Dave, and Don, you're going to finish us off. Sound good?
Sure.
All right.
Davin de Kergommeaux, co-author of this book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. It's your guide to over 200 distilleries in Canada, maps and lots of information about each of the distilleries. It's really, I think it's an ideal guide for people who want to do armchair travel or get out and do some actual travel. Thanks very much for having us on, Dolph. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure, and anytime, as you know. Blair?
All right. So here we go. The Davin let the cat out of the bag. It's my 12th wedding anniversary, and I love my wife very much. But I have to say, I haven't seen her reading this book on her side of the bed. So you can go to Amazon or Chapters or any of your favorite bookstores and order this book. And I want to see it being read. That's it for me.
Right. Miss Phillips, you've got some work to do.
I'm going to be sleeping on the couch tonight, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Now, on to someone else.
I've met your wife, and no, you won't be.
So you think you're going to be on the couch only tonight? All right, it's Yukon Dave here with this book. I've enjoyed it. It's got lots of pictures and lots of information in it. And this has been a really interesting night. The passion of the distillery has really come across. One of our good friends, Black Cat Whiskey, asked a question there. It says, "You seem to be a community mentor. Like, people need ask questions. You guys are there to help them." And I haven't seen that in the, I don't know how many weeks we've been doing this with all the other distilleries, but tonight I've seen something totally different. So I've enjoyed all the drinks I've had. They're all gone now. So
and more to go.
to the next person. Yeah, I'm out.
And done.
Again, definitely everybody needs to get the book, The Definitive Guide to Canadian Distilleries. And what they need to do is, in their area, they need to search out these distilleries, because when the pandemic hit, we all stepped up. And we stepped up not because we wanted to make money. We stepped up to help the community, because that's what we do. People are passionate and they want to help people. And if anybody out there gets the book and looks up a distillery, go visit them. You don't have to buy anything. Just go see them. Go talk to them. See what they're about. We're your neighbors, and we're trying to make awesome spirits. Come see us. And hey, if you like our stuff, buy it. If you don't, no problem. But we're here. And guys like Davin and Blair are helping you see that we're here. And I hope to see a lot more people, but I also just hope that the entire industry rises, and shows like this are helping. And God bless all of you.
Well, thank you very much. That's it, Whiskey brothers and sisters. That's it. Another memorable episode. This, and like I said, I have so many questions. I might try to ask them on the after Dram. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to it. But here's the glass. Here's the good company. Here's the good whiskey. Here's the good cocktails. This is my wife. She gave me this as a prop. She told me don't drink my prop. So I'm not going to drink it, but it's my prop. Here's the good books. Here's the good conversation. And here's to you all coming back next week, Saturday, August 15th, for our Whisky Book Club's Canadian Whiskey Journey, Still Waters Edition, page 205 for the book. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a fantastic night, and cheers to you all. Sláinte.